Welcome and thank you for joining us on another episode of Boomer Babes Life Travel Podcast. My name is Jaynie Morris-Riggs, founder and creator of fun at Boomer Babes Life, our global community for women over 50. And as always, we love bringing you these podcasts, especially when I shouldn't say especially because then that sort of makes it sound like I have a favorite. Okay, I will say especially our travel podcast, because I don't know about you, but every time I'm actually on these travel podcasts, I get more inspired. I want to pick up the phone and in particular call Christa and say, come on, let's go. It's always a fabulous podcast. So as usual, we are joined by the Leisure Business Development Manager for our partner in travel, Phil Hoffman Travel here in Australia, the beautiful Christa Kinnear. Hi, Christa.
Hi, Jaynie, and hello, everybody that's listening. Thank you for joining us.
Now, I know, first of all, I have to do a huge thank you to you, Christa. Now, I know that you have been traveling all over the place over the last couple of weeks, including having just wrapped up another great travel expo as well, with, literally hours ago, right?
It was, and it still is. If I turn the phone around, you would see Phil Hoffman construction zone with everything coming back. But it's we run on adrenaline because it's such an exciting day, and to see a lot of new people come into the convention centre, plan their holidays. They're all excited because we're planning dreams. So that's the good part.
Exactly. Well, now today for our Boomer Babes Life Travel Podcast, we're going to be talking visas, vaccinations, and vampires. Yeah.
Where did you dig that up, vampire?
Now, look, we've had a lot of feedback from a lot of our listeners who are enjoying our travel podcast with you. And some of the things that people want to know a little bit more about, they want to know a bit more about visas, where they have to have them. Are they really that important? The same with vaccinations. And we've thrown vampires in because we had a couple of people, believe it or not, ask us about Transylvania.
Yeah.
So please help us out, Christa.
3 V's, okay. And that's really important part of travel because we all love the excitement, planning the destination. Let's head off to see the warriors in China. How exciting is that? How do I get there? How long do I need? Have you thought about getting a visa for China? Oh, no, I don't know. And we wouldn't expect people to know what visas are necessary and when you need them. But just as an example, the main ones that are out there are China, a visa for Russia, Vietnam, India, Egypt, Kenya, and a little lesser known, but Canada and the USA, they're slightly different. Now, all of these I'm talking about is if you're traveling on an Australian passport. It varies if you're traveling from other destinations or you don't have an Australian passport. So as an example with China, if you were entering by air and having a lovely holiday in China, you would need to get a China visa. And there are costs incurred in sending your passport away. There's depending on how long you want to go. But if you were entering China by cruise ship and you're going to have 3 nights in Shanghai before you travel on the cruise ship, they've got what they call a 72-hour transit visa. So let us be the expert. Let us advise you. We've got a company that we deal with is called Visa Direct, and they will tell you everything we need, all the support information that we need to help you with visas. Sometimes it's a form and a photograph that we just print, connect, and send with your passport off to a consulate. Sometimes it might be us going online, uploading photos, and we love these because they're not so easy. Vietnam, it might be if you're on a cruise ship, they'll do a visa on board. So there's lots of differentials when you're traveling. Russia, if you were going up and having a lovely holiday in Russia, you would need a letter of invitation. And a letter of invitation would be by the operator that you're traveling with. So if you are going with Viking River Cruises, they would send a letter saying, Jaynie, we invite you to come and visit Russia on our cruise ship. And we send that letter of invitation off to the Russian consulate with everything you've done for the last 5 years of travel, and we go from there. So that's just a little outline.
Isn't it interesting that you've also included the USA and Canada? I would suspect that most of our listeners would be sort of thinking that the USA and Canada were places that they wouldn't need a visa. I mean, I have to say myself, I am surprised, and I used to live there. Is that a recent?
It is a recent
change, right?
The last couple of years we've had to apply, so we go on and do what we call an ESTA, and that's just going online, filling in your passport details, where you're staying, what your movements are. You pay a $14 US fee, and then that comes back to you within 24 hours.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about that then. Yeah,
absolutely. And they're things people don't know. So when you are at the airport flying off to Los Angeles, you could be denied boarding, which would be very disappointing. You didn't know that.
Well, yes, more than disappointing, I would suspect, from many people as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we've got our visas sorted out. Now, what about vaccinations, Christa?
Very, very important. There's a fabulous company in High Marsh Square that will give you all travel advice. It's the Travel Doctor. They would say, are you traveling to Brazil or South America? In which case you would need a yellow fever injection. There's typhoid and rabies that are the big ones if you're traveling to somewhere like Kenya or so forth.
Yes.
And rabies, I was surprised not everyone has rabies, but if one of those little monkeys were to give you a little love bite and there was a rabies infection somewhere, rabies actually sits in your system for years to come, and then one day you just drop dead, and then they go, oh, she must have had rabies. So when you look at the cost of some of the injections, your life is so important. It is always better to be fully covered. But definitely yellow fever and typhoid, the Australian government won't let you back in if you've not had those injections. So they're very, very important.
So for all of our listeners, including all of those that I know that we've got now that are outside of Australia and New Zealand, for instance, the best advice before travelling then would be go and speak to your GP.
Yes, absolutely.
And let them know where you're going, and they would be best to help them out as well, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. It's what they call a topical medicine doctor, and not all doctors do prescribe the injections, but they will certainly guide you to who can do that wherever you are in the world. And the reason I talked about the visas for everywhere in the world, because I know you are covered, I've got a friend arriving from Thailand, and she's going out on a Pacific cruise. So she will need not only her visa for Australia, but also to get into Noumea. So wherever you are in the world, it pays to contact your visa office and find out what's necessary for your part of the world.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, we've got our visas, we've got our vaccination, especially the one for rabies from monkeys and bats in Transylvania.
Now, in this case, you don't need a visa, you don't need injections, but you do need garlic.
And a big silver cross.
Absolutely.
Tell us about Transylvania, Christa.
Oh, you've got to believe in vampires, and Count Dracula, of course, from there. It's an area that's becoming quite popular because the access to Bucharest. There's some beautiful river cruises that will start actually in Amsterdam and travel all the way through, or from Vienna to Bucharest, or vice versa. And you do actually have the occasion to jump into Romania to see where some of these amazing castles are, to go and see vampire country. but it is a beautiful part of the world and it shouldn't be discounted. There are lots of smaller tours, Grand Balkan 7-country tours. You can go in through that area and have a 3-night tour if you're somewhere else. When I was Googling, it was even discovering the legend of Dracula in 8 days. So
Wow.
visiting Bran Castle and spent in Borgo Pass, Sibiu Old Town, which is Dracula's real castle. So there's certainly a lot of trips that you can take in through that amazing part of the world.
I think one of the great things about this as well, and what we're learning and what we're discovering, you know, with our travel podcast with you as well, Christa, and your I was going to say sister in travel crime, Jo McLaren. But I think one of the great things is what we're discovering is quite often people think, especially when they're looking at going to Europe for travel, that they oftentimes go, okay, Portugal, Spain, France, Germany, like Italy. But these other areas in Europe that we're discovering and we're finding out through our conversations with you is quite exciting, really, isn't it?
It is, and I think people are looking for those little out-of-the-way destinations. I know you follow Jo McLaren. She's going to be following me next week, but her trip to Persia, oh goodness, if you haven't been, you just want to go.
Yeah.
And I think Jo is actually getting her headdress ready for doing a podcast on Persia. So that'll be very...
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're looking forward to that. All right. Well, look, as always, thank you so much, Christa. This has been absolutely so informative, but also eye-opening.
A little bit boring.
This is nothing. This adds to the excitement of wanting to contact Christa and finding out how you can get going. Now, of course, as we always say, if you've enjoyed our Boomer Babes Life Travel podcast, remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and like it, and any comments that you have, please pop them down below and share them. You know, spread the love of our travel podcasts. And you can catch up on any of the previous podcasts. Just simply go to boomerbabeslife.com, hit on the podcast, hit on to travel podcast, and you'll be able to go back and hear all of the other amazing ones that we've got as well. Contact details for Christa as well. And remember, when you do contact Christa, mention Boomer Babes Life. You'll get extra special treatment, and you might even get some extra special bonuses as well, I would imagine, Christa.
Well, if anyone wants to travel to Romania, I'm going to throw in the garlic.
Yay! There you go. You've heard it here first on our Boomer Babes Life Travel podcast. You get free garlic when you go over to Transylvania, to Romania with Christa. Christa, thank you again. As always, it's been an absolute delight to have you with us today.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Take care.